welcome to another RouterGods video. My name is Humphrey Cheung, and as you can see, we are not dealing with routers this time. We are dealing with a picture, and specifically we are editing inside of Camera Raw 6.0 inside of Adobe Photoshop CS5. I've taken this picture with a Canon Rebel T2i, an excellent camera, $800, does basically everything I need. And I've got a picture here, and it needs a little bit of correction. You could see that it's not as sharp that I want it as I want it to be. Color's a little bit off, so I can definitely improve this. Also, I want to crop it as well. So let's take a look at the Camera Raw interface right here. We've got some options up here. We'll take a look at those later. In the center pane, you've got your picture, obviously. Bottom left corner, you have your zoom levels. On the right side is where you do most of your adjustments. You've got your histogram right here. Under white balance, you have as shot, and then you could change it on the fly to different settings. We could try auto just to see how it looks. Daylight. That looks kind of funky. Cloudy. You could see it's getting pretty horrible. Whoa, that's tungsten right there. And I don't think I used flash on this, so that looks pretty bad. And then, so we'll change it back to as shot. We changed the tint. Usually I don't mess with tint for most pictures. We've got exposure here. We've got recovery, fill light. So we'll go over each of these in detail in a little bit. Okay, so the first adjustment you will commonly make is a crop. So we're going to click on the crop tool right here. And then we're going to crop it to something like that. So that is the interesting stuff. Another tool you use a lot is the magnifying glass, the zoom tool. So we'll click on that, and I can zoom in on a screen. You might want to do this for proprietary information, So here, it doesn't look like any proprietary information, and it will tell you your zoom level in the bottom left-hand corner. You can right-click inside the picture, and it will give you different zoom levels, or if you want to go all the way back out into fit in view, you can as well. If you are lucky enough to have a scroll wheel, let's see here. Doesn't seem to want to scroll, but that's okay. You can scroll up and down, not a problem if you're in the zoom tool. Okay, so another thing we could do is we've already cropped it. I'm going to just bring back into fit into view. I'm going to go on the right side, and under exposure is a little low. I'm going to bump it up a little bit, something like that. You don't want to go too crazy about it. Recovery, what recovery does is if you see a lot of your colors falling off the right side of the screen, so if you see a spike, you can bring that back a little bit by easing it back down. So something like that, right? There is not too bad, because what it's telling me is I am losing the blues, which I might or might not care about, but I could bump the recovery up a little bit, and then I regain my blues back. Whoa, there's my antivirus. And if you mess up, what you could always do to bring things back to the default is you could click on the default button right there, and that will make everything back to default. But if you want to default just this setting right here, you could simply double click and it will bring it back to the default, which was 0 in my case. So I'm just going to do a little bit of recovery right there. Fill light is going to attempt to fill in the shadows. So you'll see areas like right here and right here. Any dark areas will start getting lighter. So let's see what we can do here. And it also has a tendency, eventually it's going to start bringing everything brighter. As you can see from the histogram, I'm pushing pretty much everything to the right, squeezing everything down to the right. Okay, so what I might want to do is do my fill light just a little bit like there, just to get more colors into the central portion of my histogram. Blacks, what you might want to do is if you have something that you know is black but it's pretty light, you can bump the blacks up, and this will sort of flatten your picture and make the dark colors blacker. So as you can see from this laptop right here, the frame, as I move the blacks to the left, it gets a little bit lighter, and as I move to the right, there we get a little bit darker. So that actually looks fairly good. Brightness, you don't really mess with the brightness because there's other ways of doing this. But as you can see with brightness, this is all in one shot of making the picture brighter or less bright. I'm just going to double click there to give it sort of neutral right there. Contrast, I don't mess with contrast that much because I deal with that in vibrance and clarity. Another thing you could do is if you know something in your picture is pure white, so in this case, this board right here I know is pretty much white, I can click on the white balance tool right there, and then I can click on the white portion, or what should be white, and then it will white balance it out. So here you can see it made it a little blue. You could experiment here by clicking on different portions of the screen to see what will make it blue, or what will make it a true white balance. Here it looks like we have no luck. That might be as good as we can get it right there, but it looks a little blue to me, so we're going to add in, punch in a little bit of yellow, so something like there. Okay, clarity. Clarity is sort of the improved version of sharpness. So you can see here that the picture is definitely not as sharp as it could be. So I'm going to just zoom in on, how about the keyboard right there. Okay, so it's a little, it's got some grain to it, and that's because I shot it at a high ISO. Well, 400 ISO right here. So we're going to change the clarity, and we're going to bump it up a little bit. Let's see what happens if we go all the way. Not too much, so let's go about 25 right there, and then we'll zoom out, fit into view. We're going to see that's how it is at 25. If we double click to bring it back, you could see that it changes. Mostly what you will see is on the monitors here, you could see the change there. So let's go crazy. Let's go 50. That's how it looks at 50. And then if I double click, you could see stuff here, stuff where you have lines. You're going to see that a lot. So we're going to, why not? We'll go up to 50 on this one. And Vibrance, what Vibrance does is it is a smart way of doing the saturation, hue and saturation that you've done in previous Photoshop lessons, hopefully. You've got Vibrance right here. I'm going to move it up a notch. And what you can see is screens with color, namely this blue right here and some of the green, will become sort of more bluish, right? If I bump it all the way over here, you'll see that we've got the blues go crazy, we've got the greens going nuts. This red definitely became more vibrant, but for the most part, the white portions of the table stayed the same. So it's a smarter way of doing it. If we were in an old version of Photoshop and we only had saturation, let me show you what happens when you bump up the saturation. Eventually, actually this one doesn't look too bad, but eventually what happens is things start looking clown colored. And you will definitely see this if you're dealing with people. So they start looking like clowns, and that's not good. You don't want that. So Vibrance is definitely the way to go here. So we might have something like, you don't want to go too nuts, but something like that might make for an interesting picture. And then what you're going to do is you're going to click on Open Image to do the final edits inside of Photoshop. In my case, it's down here. It's a little bit off your screen, but we'll click on that. And it's going to open the raw image inside of Photoshop. And this is where you could do some final edits, some final cropping. I might want to crop a little bit over there. Right click crop. And then when I'm ready to export it out, I can simply go to File and Save for Web and Devices. I could also save it, but let's save for Web and Devices. It's going to usually give you a warning saying the image is too big. Yeah, right. And then we just set how many pixels. So right now it's a pretty huge picture. It's 5124 pixels. Let's make it 1024. And this is my preview right here. That looks pretty good. JPEG very high. Sure, why not? And we'll just leave everything as default, and then you would simply click Save and give it a name. Alright, so that was a quick and easy video of going through the Adobe Camera Raw 6.0 inside Photoshop CS5. Thanks for watching.